communication is not just between human beings, it's within human beings. So if you think of it like this, right, whenever you try to analyze something, whenever you try to come up with a solution, whenever you try to solve a problem, who are you actually talking to? You're talking to yourself. So if you're not able to think well, that means you can't communicate with yourself well. When you try to manage your emotions, you're trying to manage what's happening inside of you. And if you're not able to manage your emotions, you can't manage your thinking, you can't manage your intentions, then we say that this is a fault at the interpersonal communication level.
Welcome to the Voices of Impact, the podcast where we skip the slides and dive into the real stories behind learning, performance, and human growth. Hi, my name is Hamed.
And my name is Nadir.
Today we have a very special guest, someone who has spent close to 2 decades helping people think better, perform better, and connect more meaningfully at work. With a strong background in communication and learning, he has worked across industries, cultures, and continents, delivering thousands of hours of workshop for leaders, managers, and professionals. Known for blending psychology, communication, and practical work skills, he helps organizations move beyond theory into real behavior change in how people think, work, and lead. Nadzrin, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Can you introduce yourself, Nadzrin?
So, my name is Nadzrin, and I am a full-time father and a part-time professional learning facilitator. But once upon a time, it was the other way around. And I like to introduce myself as such because it gives a sense of priority, it gives a sense of value of where my current heading is right now. In terms of the hours I do, I am a learning facilitator, so I run learning programs. I run learning programs like creative thinking, design thinking, communication skills, leadership skills, things like that. But at the back of my mind, I know why I'm doing this. I know where I am going, and it is imperative for me to be able to send that message to other people as well, because the people I work with, the people I train, tend to be leaders, tend to be managers, they tend to be people who are also parents sometimes. And I like to make that link, because when people come for training, sometimes it's their companies who send them for training. But when they are in the classroom, I'd like to be able to sell them a business case that you're here not just to learn for your workplace, not just to learn for your team, but also to learn something for yourself. And I find that when people take that and they listen to it very carefully, it makes sense to them that I want to learn how to become a better human being, not just a better parent, not just a better leader. So when I introduce myself that way, it switches something on in people. But a little bit about that is that I graduated with a degree in communication. So when we talk about communication, and Nadir, you and I, we talked about this when I first came today. Most people think communication is about between you and I, right? You and me, and then two different people talking to each other. But the actual definition of communication is information exchange. And there's actually 4 different levels. There's actually 4 different layers where communication exists. And when I go to market, when I talk to clients, I talk to leaders, I explain them that communication is not just between human beings, it's within human beings. So if you think of it like this, right, whenever you try to analyze something, whenever you try to come up with a solution, whenever you try to solve a problem, who are you actually talking to? You're talking to yourself. So if you're not able to think well, that means you can't communicate with yourself well. When you try to manage your emotions, who are you actually talking to? Right? You're trying to manage what's happening inside of you. And if you're not able to manage your emotions, you can't manage your thinking, you can't manage your intentions, then we say that this is a fault at the interpersonal communication level. Right? And the interpersonal communication level is what we call thinking. Right? So if you see that, that's a little bit different from what I thought was communication. Because it is still communicating. Right? It's your brain cells talking to each other. It's you talking to yourself. So once you've mastered that, for example, if If you live on an island alone, right, that's all you need. You need thinking skills, max. But the moment you have to survive, the moment you have to build a ship, the moment you have to do something that's difficult, then you need this next level, which is intrapersonal communication. It's you communicating with your habits. In psychology, they call it self-efficacy, the ability to make yourself perform. So intrapersonal communication is what we know as performing. So these are the internal aspects of communication, you communicating with yourself. But there's a hard line there. The moment you cross over that line, that's when you start communicating with other people. And we call that engaging or interpersonal communication. So interpersonal communication is now you being able to talk to, build rapport, create trust, persuade, influence another person. So how many people can you do that to? 2, 3, 4? You can invite someone out to lunch. You can persuade someone to follow you shopping. What's the upper limit of that? So interpersonal communication is 1-on-1, or 1-on-2, or 1-on-3 maybe. But the moment you hit that max, there's another skill set that you need, which is the ability to move the hearts and minds of many people in one go. And that's what we call extrapersonal communication or leading. So thinking at the most fundamental, right? And then performing at the next layer, and then engaging, and then the ability to lead. And lead, of course, is the ability to do for others what you can do for yourself. Can you change your habits? Sure, if you can lead yourself. If you can do that, then you can help others change their habits. And think about people like parents, teachers, leaders, managers in organizations. What are you really doing? You're trying to get people from zero to hero. You're trying to help people develop their skill set, develop their own ability to manage self-discipline. Yes, we say recruitment has to do a good job of bringing in talented people anyway, but leaders will see a potential. They will see that, okay, I can help this person become better. It's not just up to the training and development department, it's not just up to trainers, but a good leader is someone who can help develop their people. So how are you as a leader going to make change with people when you can't make change with yourself? Right? So fundamentally, when I come to market, I talk about communication in these 4 senses. That you must be able to think well, perform well, engage well, and then lead. And I'm sure we've met leaders who they make statements like, I think my people are out to sabotage me. And when I ask a question, how do you know? They say, I just feel it. I can feel it. Just there. Right? So that's a fundamental issue at the thinking level. They can't critically think. They can't gather information. They can't validate information. It's all just by feel.
Gut feeling.
Gut feeling. I mean, gut feeling is good. But if they don't know how to use it correctly, just wisely and justly, in fairness to other people, they jump to conclusions. Right? They don't check the facts. They just make a snap decision. So leaders like that, they have a deficiency at the thinking level. We've also met leaders who say, like, I don't know how to talk to my people. I'm surprised. How did you get to this level if you can't engage your people? So they have a fundamental deficiency at the engaging level. And of course, we have met those leaders who can talk a good talk, but their time management is out, their performance is out. They can't get their own work done. So that means there's an issue at their performing level. So I hope I've not left you in surprise anymore. But basically, this is how I describe to people that within each and every one of us, in order for us to be a good conversationalist, at least build the first 3 skill sets. But the moment you are given authority over another human being, the moment you become a parent, the moment you become a teacher, the moment you become a manager of another human being, right? You must have all 4 skill sets, right? Just as strong, build on top of each other, so that your fundamentals are taken care of. Then you'll have leading skills. And leading is not leadership. Leadership comes much later. But you must have the skill set, the ability to speak in public, the ability to inspire people through your words, the ability to change people's habits, right? Or help them with that habit change, the same way you could do when you were at performing level.
So, fantastic. Very nice. Okay. Yeah, as you said, now we have some substance.
In order to communicate with you better, so we did some stalking on you before you came to the studio. And we're connected to a lot of trainers. And what these trainers post a lot is obviously training-related content. And alongside of that, them having a nice dinner or lunch at a 5-star restaurant and training place and so on. But I see you posting food, but it's only from one place, one restaurant, and it's called Asaliza Bistro. What is so unique about this bistro? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
All right. For those people who don't follow me on Facebook, once in a while, if not quite a lot of times, that whenever my wife cooks, right, and I would take a photo and I would post it and I would tag it. Like the hashtag is Asaliza Bistro, and that's a restaurant that I named. There's only one place. There's only 6 customers most of the time. It's just us and the family, and it's a way for me to celebrate her. I often tell people that I deprived the world of a world-class chef when I married her, because she only cooks in one place. So that's it. Started as something just to show to the kids, to show to my family, right, that this is what we're having today. And then it just started she started cooking even more complex things. And shout out to my wife and my mom for this podcast. Both of them, God bless them, have this ability to go to a restaurant and then order something and heap something, and they will be dissatisfied with the dish. And both of them, I don't know how this happens. I guess, people say you marry someone like your mom. They would go back and they would replicate the dish better.
In a better way.
Cheaper as well. So the Asaliza Bistro hashtag started out as a fun way, but now I honestly tell her that if we were to open a cafe and we have this delusion of opening a cafe one day, that she should identify these particular dishes. And we are writing a book. It's serious. It's a book. I've told her that she should curate her late mother's recipes from Perak and my mother's recipes from Singapore and Johor, and she should name it like my mother's recipes. And she's mastered both her mother and my mother's recipes as well. Right? So we trainers, we get to eat at 5-star restaurants. I get to eat at a 6-star restaurant. So that's the behind that hashtag
story. But unfortunately for our viewers, this restaurant is exclusive only for Nadzrin and nobody else.
It's even more exclusive than the Rembayung restaurant.
Nice. And your official designation in Asaliza Bistro is?
I'm Chief Executive Officer.
Chief Executive Officer. Fantastic.
She's Chief Operating Officer.
Wonderful.
Chief Eating Officer as well.
Yeah, but
CEO.
it's CEO's job. CEO's job is to bring in external funds to pay for everything.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, beside your official designation as Chief Executive Officer at Asaliza Bistro, I know that you're also well known in the industry as a learning and performance specialist.
Yes.
Right? So, getting past the delicious talks, how did you become a learning and performance specialist? How did you get there?
So I started becoming interested in education, and I call myself a professional educator, because there's so many terms out there like coach or mentor or things like that, and I term our field as professional education as compared to, say, academic education, which is school and university, right? And I like to think of myself and my colleagues as we catch those that the schools and universities missed. So whatever skill sets that people could not develop in school or university, then it comes to us, then we help to develop that. And in Malaysia, if I think it's an open secret, public speaking is a bit of a problem. Being able to communicate upwards to your manager, being able to persuade and influence is a problem, because we were never taught in school. We were never taught 2 skill sets. One of them is connecting and one of them is convincing. We were never taught how to make friends, how to introduce ourselves, and we were not taught how to defend our ideas, how to debate, when I say argue, not the argue as in fight, argue, the original meaning of argument, like putting forward your ideas, putting forward your defending your opinion without needing to get to blows. Yeah, so I became very, very interested from when I was very, very young in how people communicated. Yeah, and that eventually led me to my degree in communication in the International Islamic University. And then I started my very first job. I wanted to be a journalist. Very low paid job, but it allowed me to travel and meet people. And I've interviewed everybody from Prime Minister all the way down to a roadside sweeper. And I made the connection that everybody's the same. Everybody's the same. Everybody has a story. In fact, my editor, his name is Azlan Ghani, my very first mentor, he says, Nadzrin, everybody has a story. Don't believe them when they say, oh, my life's not interesting. Everybody has a story. Be the kind of person that they want to tell that story to. And I take that forward into my work in journalism, in public relations, in marketing, worked in customer service. And I see that the issue we have in, say, communication, in leadership, a lot of soft skills, right, is we don't pay enough attention to what's actually happening with the person, the customer, the follower, the student, the learner. But only now, in these last 10 years or so, we have customer experience. We got employee experience. We got learner experience. But we still forget about the subordinate experience. Right? We pay so much attention to that because why? There's a lot of ROI there. But we forget about the subordinate experience, the follower's experience. And I wanted to contribute in that direction. So, but to be fair, I only realized that as of late. Life brought me along and I got opportunities. So after my stint in journalism, in marketing, public relations, I got into learning and development. And that was when I found my love. Right? I think this is the place that I can make the most difference. And an opportunity came about to work at a global consulting company, which changed my life, changed how I thought, changed how I survive, how I survive in the workplace. And the company is called Accenture. And I survived there for about 7 years. And I like to say 7 calendar years felt like 14 years. But I learned a lot.
To say the least, yeah?
To say the least. I learned a lot. And it was there that I was given the opportunity and the skill set to be able to help leaders learn how to engage. Not manage, not control, not, as like they say, how do I tackle my people? How do I team my stuff? So if I ask you this question, like, would you like to be managed?
I don't think anyone
Nobody
would
wants
like
it.
to.
Would you like to be controlled?
Oh,
Same answer.
So why is it that leaders use these words? Because they can't see another way. So I come in to help them understand that the first step is to engage. Right? Engage people with no intention of wanting to control or manage. If you are a leader, you're just paid a little bit more. You just have a bit different responsibility. At the end of the day, everybody is doing work. So I saw an opportunity there and I got very engaged with it. Accenture sent me for a lot of training, gave me a lot of opportunities. And I got the opportunity to teach very senior people, which is why I'm very comfortable now talking to C-suite. I know what their issues are. They feel very lonely. They don't have peers. Most of the time they don't have peers who understand what's happening with them, who understand what's happening within their organization. They can't tell anybody. Yeah, it's mostly business secrets. So after I left Accenture for work-life balance reasons, which was of course discussed with the family and decided, okay, so I worked as a freelance trainer. Interestingly, a lot of the training providers I work with gave me operations level people. And after a while, I got this statement, right? So the participants will say, thank you very much, Mr. Nadzrin. That was a very nice course. But when I go back to work, my supervisor will insist I use his way. And I thought, this is, I can't do this anymore. So I talked to my training providers, stop giving me operations level people, give me middle management. And that's when I started, about 2016, 2017, that's when I started really ramping up. And I discovered that if I were going to do this, I can't do it at the operations level. No change can happen there, especially with the state of learning and development in Malaysia right now. But if we work at the middle management level, that's where change can happen because they are the future leaders, right, rising up in the organization. And they're the ones who can actually change how they manage people. So that's been my journey for the last 10 years or so. From 2015 when I left Accenture up until today. This is 11th year, I guess, in 2026. And along the way, I've met so many different people who have told me their follower stories, right? Like, this is how my boss treats me. This is how he looks at me. This is how she talks to me. And I bring a different perspective on leadership training. You know, when you go for leadership training, most of the time you'll learn from leaders. Okay, the John C. Maxwell's of the world, the who else?
Zig Ziglar.
The Zig Ziglars of the world, right?
Jim Rohns, yeah.
The Jim Rohns of the world. Now, with full respect to all of them, they are the ones who wrote that book. They are the ones who said, this is how I lead people. But have we spoken to their followers? What do their followers say about them? So being able to speak to followers in the last 10 years have given me a perspective on leadership that I can help you understand your leadership style, your leadership approach from a follower perspective.
The lenses of your followers kind of goes against like a traditional kind of the way of looking at it, right?
Yes.
So you've written a book about yourself, and if your followers were to write a book about you, would it be the same as the one that you've written about yourself?
That is scary. That is scary. What would your children say if they wrote a book about you? What would your followers say if they wrote a book about you, right? What would your students say if they wrote a book about you? And that can be scary because that's the real opinion they have of you, not your opinion of this is how I led this team through this crisis and things like that. There's a missing perspective there that everybody just keeps quiet about.
Brought up an interesting point, Nadzrin. You were saying, since you provide now a lot of trainings specifically to mid-management, to C-level and so on. What is like the single most overlooked skill that high potential leaders fail to develop?
It's staring us in the face. It's the ability to build trust.
Ability to build
trust. In order to get the trust, you have to pass through two stages first. First is comfort. Second is safety, right? And then now the buzzword is psychological safety. Most organizations no longer have a physical safety problem. So comfort is defined as, if I'm in the same room as you, how do I feel? Do I feel awkward? Do I feel, is there a gap? Is there like a hierarchical gap? Do I feel comfortable? It doesn't have to be, I can be buddy with you, I can call you buddy. No. Do I feel comfortable or do I feel weird? If there are some leaders who are able to pass that stage, and that's pretty good, the next stage they have to go through is safety. And like I said, most organizations no longer have a physical safety issue. Unless, of course, it's like manufacturing or oil and gas. You don't feel physically safe. But most organizations, especially at corporate level, would be psychological safety. When you walk in the room, do your people suddenly keep quiet? Do they feel unsafe from your words? Do they feel unsafe from your actions? Do they feel like you're going to be unfair to them? So if the answer to all of these questions is yes, then you're not going to be able to build trust. You will have people who say yes, but inside they say no. You'll say, I agree, but I actually disagree. And I've seen this and I've worked with leaders who don't realize how their actions contribute to lack of safety. I'll give you one simple example, right? Do you look forward to meetings? But how do you look forward to meetings when your boss calls it?
What would be your first reaction?
Your first reaction?
Yeah.
Oh no, another meeting. Right? So just by looking at that, I mean, if I'm sitting in your office and I listen to that, I can tell that you're probably not protected when you go into that meeting. And I've sat in on meetings where the chairperson does nothing to protect their own people from each other. Worse still, from themselves. So if the chairperson says, okay, we need some ideas to solve this problem, who has any ideas? Somebody puts their hand up and says, I have this idea. And the chairperson, the boss goes, oh, that's a stupid idea. Is this person ever going to put their hand up again?
Never again.
It harks back to school and university in Malaysia especially, right? In school, if you put your hand up to answer a question, a teacher says that's wrong. What's the chances you're going to ever put your hand up again? Unless you know the actual answer.
Next time in a meeting.
No. Next time in a meeting. So we see this as symptoms of an inability to create trust. And also, there are leaders who They forget what it was like when they were followers. They forget what it was like when they were subordinates. And now when they come to that position, they repeat that cycle of terror because that's all they know. Just like parents, right? When if you become a new parent, there's a high tendency you'll repeat your parents' parenting style without realizing it.
The style that you grew up
The style
disliking.
you grew up with. If it was a good style, alhamdulillah. If it was not so good, and you don't realize it, you start saying the same things your mother says, your father says, and if it's good, it's good. If it's not so good, it's not good. If you were trained by a very good leader, then your leadership style will now be positive. If you were tormented, then there's a high chance you will torment as well. I'll give you one example. I had a participant once, a bit older gentleman who was a senior manager in a bank. He's been in the bank for 30 years. I was very proud of it. He said, when I started in this bank, my boss said, you go figure stuff out yourself. Right? That's how you learn. And I go, okay, good. And then I ask the question, do you have children? And he says, yeah, I have a daughter. Would you like your daughter to go through that? Oh, no, I don't want that. So what's happening? We pride ourselves on this legacy or this drama of nostalgia of, it was a tough life. But then we find it difficult to break that cycle. This is no longer the 1950s, 1960s. People have options. They can leave. They can go. And we were just talking about this before the podcast. They can go and ride Grab. They can go and do food delivery services. They have to respond to no boss.
Yeah.
Right?
No more hire to retire
No
anymore.
more hire to retire.
Gone are the days, yeah.
So the question then remains, what can leaders do to be able to create that trust? Now, first things first. Our grandfather, Abraham Maslow, he tells us very, very clearly that, none of this can change unless you have the most fundamentals, right? And the fundamental is they must be paid a good salary. There must not be a toxic workplace. There must be justice. There must be fairness. Then there can be trust. But what if the organization systemically has that problem? So no amount of leadership training can change that. That's what I think.
Does it differ from a big organization to a small organization? Or it's the same laws, same principles?
It's difficult to say because there's a matter of momentum, right? Big organizations where the departments are very heavily interconnected, there's a momentum of culture, right? There's a demand that we all must behave the same way. But if that culture is already toxic, and you as a young new manager comes into the organization, you want to try and flip that. It doesn't work.
They will flip you. They will flip you.
They'll flip you. They'll flip you, and eventually you leave because the culture is so interconnected. And that happens with small or large organizations. But if you, as a young manager, a new manager, you join a department, and that department is for lack of a better word, siloed off from everybody else, then you can build your own culture within that. You can build your own positive culture without interference from others. So to answer the question, it depends, good or bad. Every organization wants to be less silo and work together, but then what is that overall culture look like? Is it a positive culture which grows people, or is it a negative culture which destroys people? And it all comes down to daily leadership habits. What do you say? How do you say? When do you say things? And this is my favorite leadership book, which is called The 1 Minute Manager. It's a ridiculously thin book, but packed with really good stuff. Things that matter to the followers. Like if I make a mistake, right? How should my boss tell me I made a mistake? How can they tell me in a way that I understand, I'm not offended, and I can still carry on? I can make a correction to that mistake. But trust is broken because these leaders themselves, whoever these leaders were, and I don't blame them, because either they learned it badly or they were already traumatized to begin with, that when they become leaders, they just carry on that style, right? I want to use a reference. I want to give you an analogy to parenting, if possible, because I see a lot of parallels. One of the good things about being a trainer is you have trainer friends, and many trainer friends were from different domains. So in about 2012, about there, one of my trainer friends who specializes in ECCE, early childhood and childcare education, came up to me and gave me some advice on how to interact with my daughter. So she was watching me and my daughter, and she says to me, Nadzrin, if you keep going like this with your daughter, when she grows up, she will have nothing to do with you. She will not have anything to do with you. She'll make excuses not to come home for Hari Raya. You will not see her because of the experience you're creating with her.
Now, when she's
Then,
small.
Yeah, when she was small. And I took that to heart because back then I only had 2 children. I have 5 now. So I flipped. I flipped. And she taught me something very interesting. She said, children learn to lie because when they tell the truth, they get punished.
Mhm.
And I extend that. Employees learn to lie because when they tell the truth, they get punished. Right? Imagine this. A child watches children's TV shows that have morals embedded in them. They watch Sesame Street, they watch Barney. If you're Malaysian, you watch Along, A-L-O-N-G, Along.
Upin dan Ipin.
Upin Ipin. And on all these TV shows say, oh, you must tell the truth.
Yeah.
It is a sin to lie. You must tell the truth. So this child goes home, grabs a mug, gets water to drink, and accidentally, nobody does it purposefully, accidentally drops the mug on the floor and breaks, right? Thank God for mugs, because when they break, it's not as sharp as if you drop glass. Now, mother walks by and mother asks, who did this? And the child references everything they know, like, okay, we must tell the truth. I did this. And the mother says, thank you, son, for telling the truth. Yes or no?
Never.
So mother gives him a scolding, or maybe even a whack on the butt, and the child is going, something wrong here. Wait a minute.
Hold on. The cartoon
Hold
I
on.
just watched, something was different. Yeah.
Yeah.
What just happened?
So there's some issues going on. Well, maybe mom was having a bad mood that day.
Let me try again.
Let's try again. Few months later, it happens again. Who did this? Barney says, Big Bird says, Along says, me, mommy. Does mother say, thank you for being an honest little boy?
Not again.
Oh, there you go. One more time. A tight slap there. And the child is confused. There's something. I don't get this. What's going on? Few months later, it happens again. Who did this? And by now, the child has done its profit loss calculation. Right?
Analogy.
Yeah. And like, okay, this is not worth it. So he will say, baby brother.
Mm.
Now think of that in the workplace, right? We expect our people to have two-way communication with us. We expect our people to raise concerns with us. But when we do raise them, we don't give them the right response. I did, let's call it a survey. I did a survey of 120 people within one company because the leadership asked us to find out what's actually happening down there. And we came up with a couple of insights. One of the key insights was that management asked us to raise our concerns. But every time we raise our concerns, instead of getting a solution, we get an explanation.
It's shut down.
Oh, policy. Because of policy, we cannot do this. So what happens? Eventually, we stop raising concerns. And then something blows up. And then management goes, why did you tell us about this? We tried. But every time we raised it to you, you said, no, policy says we can't do this. So nothing changes. Right? So it's amazing because they came up with that statement for me. I didn't come up with, and I tell it to as many different people as I can, and many different leaders. Whenever we try to raise our concerns to management, instead of getting a solution, we get an explanation. Now, then I ask them, what are you looking for? Well, we're looking for some effort. Show some effort that, okay, it seems like a lot of people are raising the same concern. I'm going to talk to the other senior managers. Let's see what we can do. Let's talk to the CEO. And then, bam, CEO says no. Then we come back down to our people and say, we've done our best, we've tried, We apologize. It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. Show us that we care. Show us that you care about our concerns. And we will keep raising them. But the moment you stop us, then we're not going to give you anymore.
Interesting. I want to take you back, Nadzrin, to what you mentioned earlier. You said starting from 2015, 2016, you stopped taking classes for operational level, and you started requesting training providers to give you middle management and
Right.
above, right? So just thinking, when it comes to middle management or higher management, how do you actually communicate? Because, well, for you to go in as a specialist, as a trainer, right? Someone needs to be convinced that
Right.
a level of so-called soft skill or emotional intelligence training is required. And oftentimes, the person who's supposed to approve comes from the target group that you intend to go and change things about them, right?
Yes.
So how does it work actually?
So early on, I ran into this kind of resistance, right? Until I realized that there's a business case for this, right? And the business case is efficiency. So when you are not able to lead your people efficiently, there will be resistance and there will be stress. So I call current management skills, I call them current management skills as pressure tactics, right? So you pressure people to get the work done. What's missing is what is persuasion tactics. How do we persuade them so that there's greater commitment rather than just only compliance? You need both, right? So if they come to the training, they're already good managers. I expect that they can schedule well, they can delegate well, fine, right? But then how do you communicate that task? How do you help them through that task? So the business case that I put forward to clients is, when you use pressure tactics, it's high stress for the followers. It's also high stress for the managers. You're always thinking about, how do I give feedback? What's her reaction going to be? But if you have persuasion tactics, right, it reduces stress on the other side, reduces stress on the manager's side. There's greater efficiency. You have actual communication flow. When you use pressure tactics, you create the kind of environment where people are afraid to admit their mistakes or report their mistakes early, right? One of my bosses said to me, you will not get fired for making a mistake. You will get fired for hiding a mistake. But why do people hide mistakes? Broken mug.
Yeah.
Get punished. I tell you, I made this mistake. I don't get any positive reinforcement to say, this is the behavior I would like to keep seeing. Now, let's fix this problem. Rather than focus on the problem and scream at you on the spot. Yeah. So, usually with stakeholders, I don't explain this. I walk them through a scenario. I have that discussion with them. So it hits them as well. It goes, oh yeah, that's right. To be fair, when we do this with very corporate GLCs or MNCs, they understand this stuff. They understand it intellectually. Sometimes it doesn't get here. But when we do it very technical fields like financial services, automotive sector, plantation, these people, they graduated to manager from their technical skills. So when they came into managerial position, they came there because of their technical skills. Yes. Because they were a good accountant, because they were a good technician, because they were a good planter, right? They came into that with no people skills. So I found that within the sectors that I serve, which especially the technical sectors, they appreciate it very much. In the classroom, you can see faces change. I wish I had this.
On that, actually,
Yes.
Nadzrin, you were saying that people get promoted because of their technical skills, and they actually believe that that is good enough for them to become good leaders. But how would you describe the importance of interpersonal and intercultural? Because we live in a multicultural country. All the organizations are multicultural as well, right? So how would you describe the importance of interpersonal and intercultural communications for leaders.
Okay. Whenever we look at things like character or personalities, we always look at it in the form of appropriateness, in the form of fit, right? You could have a character or personality that fits a particular job, or fits a particular domain, or fits a particular sector, right? If you're highly introverted, right, and you are happy making crafts, you could make crafts all year long and sell that, no problem, right? When it comes to being able to lead people, you must have the ability to adjust, to adapt, to be versatile to many different people. So when we say interpersonal communication, the word inter there means that you are finding a way to fit. And there are some people who they get promoted without realizing that they are not fit for that. So how do you close that gap? Either you send for training, right? Or you do that coaching, or you realize that this person doesn't want to be a manager, right? They're an expert, they are a specialist, they work well alone, they don't want to be a manager. So having the key word is inter, having the word interpersonal skills, that means you make it more efficient, you lubricate the performance of people, because people are more willing to work with people that they like.
How can they like them?
If you don't have the interpersonal skills to begin with. Now, I'm not saying to be nice to everyone. No. What's that fit? There are people who are very straightforward. And you as a boss, you beat around the bush. That's not a fit. You fail to understand how to communicate to your follower, who's a very straightforward guy. There are some people who can't take straightforwardness, but you yourself are a straightforward boss. And you go to them, this is bad. And the follower go like, yeah, I understand this is bad, but could you have said it in a nicer way?
Can you tell me differently?
So, again, everybody wants to get promoted to manager, but once you get there, do you realize you're responsible for a human being? You're responsible for 30 human beings. You're responsible for their careers, for their livelihood, for their development, for their discipline. And it's a hard job. But you signed that contract, you accepted that position, so now you have to learn how to manage it. So, and you understand the word manager comes from process management. They had to tag the word people onto it for it to become people manager. But we can't manage people. As much as people are gonna comments underneath this YouTube video, people are gonna target me. How do you manage people if you don't like to be managed? But you can engage people. You can engage, you can lead people, you can inspire people. And that's where the persuasion tactics come in. If all you do is just manage, then there's an imbalance. You treat people, sadly, that term is there, like human resources.
Human resources.
Yeah.
One of the most commonly used terminologies out there. Okay.
So would you like to be called a resource?
No, I don't think anyone would like
I would like
that.
to be called resourceful, but yeah.
Talking about being a manager and you defining the word manager. So one of the most common things that we hear from managers and those who are assigned with such a job title is an extra focus on measurable things like metrics and KPIs and so on. And quite often it comes at a cost of neglecting people development. Why do you think that is?
I think that is also cultural within the organization. And like I've said many times before in other places, when I've posted on Facebook, that if the organization is very results oriented, very performance oriented, it trickles down in the form of control. It trickles down in the form of very tight monitoring, that there's no space for growth. Right? So I'll give you an example, right? Very old book called The Fifth Discipline. Very old book. 1991. Peter M. Senge wrote that companies focus a lot on cash flow. They focus on, we must have cash flow, right? But they forget about the knowledge flow. They forget about developing people. When the company is headed into a problem, the people need to learn how to deal with that problem. But one of the first few things people, the organizations do when they run into a barrier, an obstacle, is the first thing they cut services. And one of the first few services they cut is training. So if you cut your training now, if you cut your learning and development now, what happens in 5 years' time when these people become managers? So the idea that focusing on the hard numbers, yes, it's good, but focus also on growth, people's growth. Because if you want to have higher numbers, then they must have higher capabilities. And the only way to have high capabilities is a bit more experience, yes, but also new knowledge, new skill sets, upskilling, upgrading. And that's why if everyone is familiar with HRD Corp, right? HRD Corp was set up to be able to force, in a way, SMEs to send their people for training. That was the original intention. And Malaysia has done fantastically well in that sense. When you compare ourselves against other countries nearby, they want to copy that model. Because there are a lot of people have gone for training and left their organizations with that skill set. And it came from those funds, it came from those activities, from those training activities. Now, my question would be to leaders is, how are you as a learning facilitator? Or are you just a manager who manages KPIs and numbers and results and profits? So manage the cash flow, fine. Manage the results, fine. But how are you managing the development of your people? Are you actually watching them grow? How are you contributing to them? What words have you said today to them that can help them be better tomorrow?
Talking about leadership development, Nadzrin, can you tell us a case where companies, wrong leadership, let's put it this way, right? Wrong leadership development model has backfired and it made people worse, not better?
I don't know about the model because I think I have not seen that in companies, but I know about treating leadership training as an expenditure, not as an investment. So if I were to ask you this question, and I've asked quite a few CEOs, it's my go-to question for CEOs, right? If your family, suddenly takes a nosedive, right? You're not earning as much as before. Will you stop your children from going to school? Will you take your kids out of school? And most of the time it's a very empathetic, no, I wouldn't do that. And I ask why? Well, because it's for their future. It's investment into their future. And I go, fantastic. So why is it when the organization is not doing well, you stop your people from training?
Because it's an expenditure.
Because it's an expenditure. So if you think of it as an expenditure, then it becomes a checklisting process, right? I report to my boss that congratulations, I have conducted this training. We got a lot of good feedback. We got 4.98. They enjoyed the training very much. But everyone knows that's just an L1. That's a happy sheet. That's, did you enjoy the training? Was it useful for you? Was the trainer good looking? How was the food? How was the air conditioning? Right?
How was the food, yeah?
How was the food, yeah. And what happens? They use that as evidence that the training went well. But what happens next? And this is why I relate back to that those operations people who invariably gave me the same sentence. Thank you very much, Mr. Nadzrin. That was a really nice course. But when I go back to work, my supervisor will insist I use his way. So now you send these people for training. When they go back to their workplaces, who helps them to apply those behaviors? Their senior managers, what are they doing? In many cases, it's like, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your 2-day holiday. Now back to work.
Fantasy ends today.
Fantasy ends today. So we talk about learning sustainability, not just for leadership training, but any kind of training. If you view it as an expenditure, it's close the book, done deal.
Move on.
If you view it as an investment, what will you do? You will track your investments.
Yeah.
You will make sure that what you paid for, you get value out of, right? So that's where you really have to look into things like the Kirkpatrick models, return on expectation, or the Phillips Institute model of return on investment. Not everything requires an ROI. Some of them just requires an ROE. Okay, you expected an improvement in your team's rapport. It's there. I can see it. I can't measure it, but I know it's there. Okay, why put a value, a dollar figure to it? You don't need that. But everybody wants ROI, and some things are incalculable, especially soft skills.
Yeah.
Yes. So, to answer your original question, is that I won't say backfired. I would say that it's incomplete.
Incomplete.
Yes, incomplete, and it's not a full learning journey, which is why now the second part of my answer, I stopped asking my training providers for just middle managers. Give me developmental journeys. I don't want to do any more hit and run workshops.
Like one off.
Yeah,
1 day,
one-off.
2 day. That's it.
I want to be able to help them through that journey, and whether that journey is we do coaching, or we do seeding, or we do Zoom calls afterwards, or we train their line managers how to help them implement their behaviors. Usually, it's a 3-month journey or 100 days for behavior change, right? And when we do that, we get a higher rate of knowledge retention. We get more behavior change, and sometimes we get actual results. Without naming a client, we were running a leadership development program 6 months for the managers of an automotive company, and it turned out that they were taught coaching skills, they were taught mentoring skills. The manager of one branch had a salesperson who was transferring to another branch. Okay. This manager who came for the course spoke to the other manager who also came for the course. Hey, I've been coaching this guy. When he comes over, I want you to continue coaching him. So his problem was he was averaging 1 car a month. This salesman was averaging 1 luxury car a month. He was selling 1 car a month. When he transferred over there, this manager continued the coaching, and I was coaching the managers. So I was blind by 1 level. So when he coached this guy, and he asked, okay, how do you think you can sell more cars? So he looked, all the salespeople are sitting at the back, in the back room, in the sales room. Maybe I'll stand in front. So this guy decides to stand in front. And as customers walk in, he gets all of the walk-ins, and he averages now 7 cars a month.
Just by switching.
7 cars a month, just by standing in front.
Wow.
Just by the manager coaching him, just by me coaching the manager after they came for the course. And it's stories like this that give me hope that, hey, I can make a difference. Now, it's different if, for example, you are engaged with a company that has supermarkets. You coach a manager whose salesperson sells 100 ringgit a month, right? After you coach him, he now sells 700 ringgit a month. That's not bad. But for the same price that you pay for the training program, for a luxury car brand, to go from 1 car to 7 cars, it pays for the program.
1 to 2.
So again, the question isn't backfiring. It's a mentality, a mindset of how do you look at training? Is it an investment? Is it or is it expenditure? You go, okay, budget for today. And I've experienced this in Malaysia, and I do work in Cambodia quite a bit. A lot of training managers in Malaysia, when you propose something, they say, this is a very good program, but we don't have the budget for it. But when you speak to C-suite, you speak to the leaders in charge, right? They'll say, this is a very good program, I will find the budget for it. So I think that mentality, that mindset switch needs to be there.
So value first.
Value first.
Sometimes it could be as simple as, where are you standing?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Stand in front.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, Nadzrin, you did cover quite extensively in terms of how important continuity and basically leadership training journey is.
Yes.
But there is still a gap between workplace behavior and leadership training per se. Where do you commonly see that gap being?
I'd say, with all things being equal, right? Grandpa Maslow saying that, it must be a safe space. It must be, there must be, everything must be in place. Yes. So what's left is, how is management? When I say management, how are managers? How are managers showing up and engaging and interacting with their people on a daily basis? Okay. So when, for example, and since you talked about leadership training, I'm going to talk about training in general, right? Yeah. If you are the manager and you send your people for training, when they come back, what do you say to them? What do you say to them? Do you say, welcome back from your 2-day vacation as well? Your manager said that to you?
How was the food? Yeah.
How was the food? Or
Did
do
you
you say, tell me what you learned? Explain to me what you learned. Right? Oh, didn't give me the slides. That's okay. Tell me what you learned. What are the insights that came out, right? That's at bare minimum. Bare minimum. A bit more than that, on Friday, after Friday prayers, we usually don't have much work to do. I want you to gather the team. I want you to teach the team what you learned. Do a teach back. But I forgot. No. Teach what you remember. Right? You have your workbook. You teach what you remember. A bit further than that. So you went for a communication training course. I want you to do something for me. Right? I want you to look at our department. Okay? With all things being equal, yeah?
Yeah.
Right? That means that you have built trust with this person. They don't think like, oh, he's giving me extra work, man.
I don't want to go to training
I don't
anymore.
want to go training anymore like this. Now, with all things being equal, that they trust you, they know that whatever you assign them is good for them, right? With all things being equal. I want you to use whatever you learn in that communication course. Try and identify what are the communication issues we have in our department. Right? And tell me how I can help to improve that. So there's many steps that you can do at different levels of intensity. The highest one is like an action learning one. Okay, you do the analysis. I'll let you off from work for a couple of weeks. You do the analysis, you find the solution, you implement the solution, make it better. So the gap between any kind of training is sustainability. What is the manager's role to make sure that behavior is embedded? You know, parents whose children go to school, they study mathematics and stuff like that. When they come home, what do the parents do to help them sustain that? Do you ask them to calculate stuff for you? Do you ask them to can you? So my mother, she still does technically. She used to make baju kurung. It was my job to do the calculations. Thank God. Thank God I learned this in school. And now I see it's happening with my son, with my youngest son. Whenever they can apply that knowledge, it becomes long term, it becomes embedded. But if they go to training and they come back and there's nothing to apply on, then it just disappears, right? The forgetfulness curve, I think they call it, right? 80% disappears the day after, unless reinforcement. So leaders, managers, if you want your people to actually get benefit from the training that you send them for, make sure you reinforce, and not the word force, yeah. Reinforcement, okay, reminders, encouragement, rewards. You want behavior to change, there has to be rewards, and also monitor. Okay, this is not me. This is the Kirkpatrick model saying it, right? To create sustainability of learning, to bridge the gap. To cross the bridge of learning transfer, to get from level 2 to level 3 to level 4. You must do this. You must make sure that it is worthwhile. It's worthwhile for me to apply my learning and not just get a scolding and punishment.
We are coming towards the end of the podcast. I believe we have a final question to ask.
All right.
Adil?
Yeah, well, as you work with leaders not just locally, but globally as well, what is that one insight that you would want every senior management to hear from you? What would be your message to them?
What you do impacts the lives of your followers, right? Be very aware of your facial expressions, your tone of voice, your body language in your daily interaction with them. Be very aware of how that impacts them. Your voice has impact, and this is Voices of Impact.
Yep.
Learn how they see you. This might be challenging because, people will not tell you the truth, but then you have to build that trust for them to be able to create that. And I know they do like 360 and stuff like that, but you have to find a way to really understand how you are seen. Because if you are a company that sells things, you do market research to understand how the market sees you. Why is it that when you are a leader, you ignore?
Only one way.
Yeah, you ignore that this is what they say about you behind your back. So be aware of how you impact them. And yes, I know you have to look after the KPIs and the results and stuff like that. But welcome to being a leader. That's what you asked for. That's what you got. So be a better one.
Nice one.
Yeah, something to think about for everyone from small company size to big company size, no matter what. As long as you're holding a leadership role, that is the message.
Yes.
Be wary, very much aware of how you're being perceived by your subordinates.
And your children,
Definitely.
and your students, if you're a trainer.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Nadzrin. It was a very insightful session. We learned a lot.
Thank you.
And we hope that our audience, our viewers, they have benefited from this session as well. I'm sure there have been quite a lot to unpack and unfold and think about and go through again. Okay. Thanks again
Thank you
for spending the time.